refuge with Allah from the evil of ourselves and from the evil consequence of our evil actions. So in this is a clear proof, in this is a clear evidence that evil actions have evil consequences. Evil actions have evil consequences. And they have evil consequences in this life as well as the life to come. And I'm not going to discuss today about the physiological aspects or in detail the aspects or the harmful aspects in detail of particular sins. But in general, I want to talk about sins and what sins do for us, especially as Muslims, and how they harm us as Muslims. So in that regard, first of all, let's look at what sin does on an individual level. Now, the Prophet ﷺ explained and stressed to us the importance of the heart. The heart is, in a sense, the locus or the center point of understanding. And I don't mean understanding in an intellectual sense, in a scientific sense. No, it's understanding in a spiritual sense. It is the heart that enables us to see the truth and the light of the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when the heart is clean and when the heart is pure, the clean heart, the pure heart understands truth. It understands moral truth. It understands spiritual truth. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ, he said, there's a morsel of flesh that if it is whole, the body is whole. And if it is corrupt, the whole body is corrupt. And that is the heart. So the Prophet ﷺ, he told us about this heart. And what is the effect of sin on the heart? The effect of sin on the heart, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, may Allah have mercy upon you, is that every time we sin, a type of black spot enters our heart. A black spot covers our heart. And a person keeps on sinning and keeps on doing evil deeds until what happens to their heart becomes darkened. Their heart becomes, in fact, so darkened that it can no longer reflect the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's guidance. And this is what Allah described as ra'ina ala qulubihim. They have rust upon their hearts. This rust or this dirt upon their heart does not allow them to see the truth. And this is what happens to the people when they sin. And indeed the Prophet ﷺ, he warned us about a time when this will happen. He said that trials will be presented to the heart, one after the other. And we mentioned this in the very, very first lecture we gave in this series. We talked about life being a test. Life is a series of trials, tests, tribulations. The path to paradise is a path that is full of trials and tests and tribulations. And the path to hellfire is full of temptations, things that accord many times with your false desires. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, temptation is presented. This is what is going to happen. It's going to be presented to the heart, one after the other. And there will be two types of heart. There will be one that will absorb these temptations. So they will give in, and they will absorb these temptations. And eventually what will happen to these hearts is they will be hearts without iman. They will be hearts without faith. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, it will not recognize good or evil. It will not anymore recognize good or evil except when it is in accordance with their desires. This is very important, because sometimes it may be that your heart recognizes something as being evil. But the reason for that is just because that's your desire. That's just your desires. That's what you happen to like, or that's what you happen to dislike. And this is very important because it goes back to a point that we've mentioned before. Evil is not based upon what I like or what I don't like, what I fancy and what I don't fancy. And this is very important also in regard to the hadith we mentioned previously about consult your heart, take fatwa from your heart. If your heart is corrupt, then your heart will not be giving you the right fatwa, because all you are doing is following your desires. No, this advice is for people of Iman. This advice is for the people who care about what is haram. They care about what is halal. They are seeking and striving in their life to do the right thing. And so that concern to do the right thing, that concern to keep away from the haram and to do what is halal, then they look to their heart in their efforts to try and do what is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, this is not talking about the person with a corrupt heart who just wants to follow their whims and their desires. Because when that person consults their heart, they will not find any reflection of truth. Only they will accept what is in accordance with their nafs, their hawa, their desires, and they like it because that's what their desire is, and they don't like it because that's what their desire is. So they will no longer recognize right from wrong, except when it is in accordance with their desires. But then there's the other type of heart. This other type of heart repels the temptation, repels the fitna. And then eventually this type of heart will reach a stage and it will reach a level where nothing can harm it. As the Prophet said, as long as the heavens and earth endure, nothing is going to harm this heart. It will remain firm and strong upon Iman. So obviously, my brothers and sisters, that is what we want to try and achieve, to have a heart like that. But the problem is, when we sin, then the black spot goes on our heart. If we repent, the black spot is removed. Also, if we do good deeds, that helps to remove the rust from the heart. But the problem is, my brothers and sisters, when we sin, and we become accustomed to sin, and even if they are the so-called small sins, even if they're the so-called small, enough of those small sins can blacken the heart. And then the worst punishment that a person could ever experience is that they don't even know that they are being punished. They don't even realize that they are suffering the consequence of disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they don't care whether their money is halal or haram. They don't care whether what they're doing is right or wrong in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that truly is the worst type of condition a human being can reach. So that is really, in a sense, the worst type of punishment.